streaming from anybody, that would be great. And good time to also share the post with your friends and your admirers.
Okay, LinkedIn is up.
LinkedIn is up.
Good. Facebook is up.
Facebook is up. Twitter, Keith?
On
Twitter, look out.
Twitter is up.
Twitter's up. All right. And YouTube, we think is up. Okay.
Okay.
All right. We are ready to go. And I'm going to get Steven a single shot. We're about to stream the Gillmor Gang. July 17th, 2022. Okay. Mute is off. Don't laugh at me, Steve. Oh yeah, you're laughing with me, right? Mute is off, and we're gonna go in 3, 2, 1, and.
Hi, Steve Gillmor here. This is the Gillmor Gang. Welcome to a pad in order for Tina to have enough time to be able to switch to the next shot. And who's it going to be? I think it'll be the framework of Massachusetts. Dennis Pombriat, welcome.
Hi, Steve. Hi, everybody. It's good to be here. I'm having a great Sunday shredding 20 years worth of all kinds of company stuff, trying to make room. It's a lot.
Make room for what?
Oh, more stuff.
Ducklings.
More stuff. Yeah, that's right. This is Boston, so we make way for ducklings.
New stuff.
Hey, you like my T-shirt?
What does it say?
It says, vote no confidence in the GOP.
I like your T-shirt. Yes.
That's a pretty extremist point of view there, Dennis.
Yes, it's an MVP. It's a minimally viable product. I have other ideas. I'll be showing them to you over the course of the summer.
Okay, very good.
Joining us from London, England, British Isles, UK, not Brexit. Did I say Brexit?
Yes. You did. You said Brexit.
I denied that I said that. Let me shred that and we'll start over.
Hey, to me, shredding has an entirely different explanation. Shredding is something you do on a guitar.
Good thing.
All right. I have musician sons. I get you.
But having come from a business world, I actually have it is a dual meaning for me.
Okay, and that's Frank Radis, and the lower third now disappears.
Here in London, where we will probably hit almost 40 degrees centigrade in the next couple of days. So that's going to be the hottest. I think the hottest historically that it's ever been in London. Ever.
Oh, London and the heat is not nice.
Yeah, and just to let you know that I'm experiencing some laryngeal issues. So I might have to talk like this, which is actually easier for me to do.
It's very sexy, Frank.
Is laryngeal a word, really?
I don't know. It seems like it might be.
Good, but
Oh, that sounds good. You kind of like cross between Brando and James Caan, who died this week.
Yeah, that or Frankie Frantangeli.
Yeah, who was the name of that actor?
The guy who played Frank, I can't remember who he was, but he killed himself. So
okay.
A lot of shredding today.
Yeah. From Palo Alto, California, is Keith Cheer. Welcome, Keith.
Very pleased to be here with all of my colleagues and comrades. You can decide which one you are.
Oh.
What's the difference?
Well, a colleague is someone you work with, and a comrade is someone you agree with.
there a third option?
Yes, but my distinguished colleague is someone I disagree with.
Exactly.
Right. It's
Oh.
like, yeah, thanks for the faint praise. Include me out, as they say. All right. From the
Kind of
Atlantic.
like the Southern, bless her heart.
Yeah, isn't that special? From Atlanta, Georgia area is Brent Leary.
Oh, no.
The bad news is that, you know, we know what the bad news is. The good news is that I don't understand a word you said.
I just said guess.
What?
Guess who's back?
Oh,
I'll give you
That's what
another
I
week to
said.
be doing vodka.
this is why I did not watch so far season 4 of what is it?
Crazier things.
Yeah,
Stranger Things.
that's kind of what.
Stranger
Yeah, Stranger, right?
You didn't watch season 3 either.
Exactly. Let's see. From the Seattle, Washington area is Michael Markman.
How do you do? I'm here with a little bit of fill in the blank. The actor who played Frank Pentangeli, Frankie Five Angels, was Michael Vigazzo, playwright.
Yes.
Ooh.
All right.
Quick on the Google lookup.
Yeah, well, it pays to be last in the introductions.
Yeah, and then now that we've gotten through the introductions, the entire show is over.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Well, I
Well,
couldn't agree
We've
more.
had our obligatory Elon
Thanks to
Musk.
everybody who showed up and is what?
We've had our obligatory Elon Musk, and we've had our obligatory politics. So
This is going to only be about Elon Musk.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I'm going to
See, guys,
steer everything back to the Elon Musk deal.
Oh.
Okay. That's fine.
Who just bailed?
It was Frank. Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, okay.
Frank's not
All right.
TLC right now. Well, we'll see.
Uh,
Come on back, Frank. You'll be okay.
he'll be back. There he is. Frank, why did you leave?
Tired of Elon Musk in almost every way, shape, and form. Sorry. I'm as tired of Elon Musk as I am of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was thinking before the show, often, you come to me early on and I have some witty or intelligent or Trumpian, anti-Trumpian thing to say. And I was trying really hard to come up with something else to talk about, and I couldn't. So I was hoping that my throat issue would be so bad that I would not say much during this show. And that's what's happening.
So how's that going for you now?
Well, I am seeing a doctor on Friday. So that's one of the issues with the NHS. It's not like you can go and see your doctor. You have to hope that they can get you in. Anyway, I'm going to go see him on Friday to find out if what I have, which has lasted too long, is serious or just bad weather.
So how can we be sure that this is actually your throat issue and you don't have a version of voice modification?
You see, that's funny.
See what
What did he say? Actually, it doesn't hurt for me to do that.
Wow. Okay.
He
So
sounded a little like Anthony Fauci before he had his larynges examined and tweaked.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
he
think
had
I'm going to
some
get tweaked.
Nodules removed, correct?
And part of Anthony Fauci is played by, oh no, that was another.
Frankie Pentangeli, who is no longer with us.
Okay.
But I don't know. I will find out, and you guys will be the first to know, or second, because I'll probably have to tell my wife.
Good. Yeah.
Well, we're hoping for it's just the bad weather.
Yeah, I'm sure that's all it is. Anyway, carry on, people. Otherwise, I'm going to start talking about the Secret Service, which is just ridiculous.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Seriously, the Secret Service. I mean, how ridiculous is it that they think that they can say that they're that their emails were erased because they were switching gear. What a crock of
Well, the name is
Marmite.
the Secret Service. I mean,
Crock
why
of
would we be
Marmite.
surprised?
That's why I asked the question.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
I'm sorry. I think it's ludicrous. And he was a great act.
He's a great rapper too.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Okay, that took care of
There you go.
Right.
Rapping and the Secret Service and Donald Trump all at once.
okay. So going back to Elon Musk for a second. You think I'm kidding?
No.
Okay, let's go back to him. Did you say for a second?
Well, I'm giving Frank a chance
Time's
to,
up.
rest his voice. What do we currently think about whether or not this deal is going to go through or not?
Well, it's a whole different kettle of fish now. You've got the Chancellery Court in Delaware involved. They could force the deal to go through. So, and it looks like Twitter has a strong case. So that changes everything.
You mean that Twitter has a strong case?
Twitter has a strong case. Twitter could prevail in court. The court could rule that Musk has to consummate the deal.
Or at least come up with the money. Whether he could just forfeit the money and not buy them.
Or he could just make a deal.
Or he could negotiate some buyout with Twitter for less than.
I mean, that's what's still an open question. It's true that this is in court and they could force a decision, but negotiation is also an alternative and the case could be dropped.
Or could he conceivably get the company for less money through that negotiation?
That's what we mean. I think that's what I meant by negotiation. He could say, okay, would you take this amount? Would you take that amount?
See, I don't think that can happen. That can't happen. And correct me if I'm wrong, but for that to happen, Twitter would have to be damaged. Twitter and its shareholders would have to be damaged. Say that it knocks.
What do you mean by that can't happen? What is that?
The deal can't go through at a lower price because it will deprive Twitter shareholders of the delta between the original offer and the strike price, and that's gonna harm a lot of people. And I don't see how a court can allow that to happen.
Well, if it does happen, it just opens up another class action suit by Twitter shareholders against the board of directors
and against Elon Musk.
But what if if the strike price is what the stock is per share that day?
The way that you have to separate out a few things. The Chancellery can't renegotiate the terms of the deal. They can either enforce the deal or not. That's a whole process, which the range of possible outcomes is quite wide, because Musk will contend that Twitter has been lying in its SEC filings, and Twitter will have to prove that that isn't true.
No.
Wait. Why doesn't the burden fall on
because Musk's claim,
one at a time, please. I can't hear.
Musk's claim is, and it is a claim, is that there's material detriment in the deal due to non-disclosed facts, and therefore he can't be held accountable for the original deal, because in discovery he now has reasonable grounds to believe that Twitter has been lying about its true engaged user base.
Yeah, but that's until it goes to court and somebody puts their hand on a Bible and says, "I'll tell the truth." That's just a story. So Twitter doesn't have to prove anything.
Twitter has to prove it. No, Twitter does has to prove it. That's why this is different than the criminal court.
No.
Well, let me finish my point, then you can disagree with it. The terms of the deal.
How about if I disagree with it and now you can finish it?
The terms of the deal have this clause in that it can be abandoned should there be material. I can't remember the exact words, but there being lies about how many real users there are would be a ground. So actually, Twitter will have to prove that that isn't true. He won't have to prove it is true.
That's not logical. You cannot prove a negative. Musk has to prove that he is being defrauded by Twitter. Twitter doesn't have to show up and say, no, we're really telling the truth.
Look, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm not a lawyer, but it's
already filed with the SEC. The SEC might be able to reopen that can of worms, but right now, Elon Musk has to put up or shut up.
No, I don't agree.
I'm not a lawyer, but it seems to me Dennis has a stronger case. If I was on the jury, you can't simply. Well, if I was a judge, you can't just simply assert that somebody is lying on the basis of no evidence. That puts you in Trump's position. I assert that the election was stolen. Now it's not on the, it's on Trump's lawyers to prove that the election was stolen. It's not otherwise. I don't understand exactly what you're saying.
Well, because there's a legal agreement at the core. And everyone's focused on the obligations that Musk has in that agreement, but Twitter has obligations as well. And Musk is saying they haven't fulfilled the agreement.
Yes, but how doesn't he have to bring evidence that they haven't fulfilled them? You're just asserting.
He can't because only they have the data that could show what the truth is. So, he's not in a position to prove. They've given him data that doesn't help. So I think any reasonable person is going to say, well, let's find out what the truth is.
Well, that puts Dennis and me in the category of unreasonable people.
It's a pleasure to know you, Michael.
The shifting sands.
This is why I didn't want to talk about Musk.
But that said, Steve's original question was a bit different, which is this just negotiating? And
it's not a question. I think it's
So Steve's saying it is just negotiating.
I don't think you can prove that it's not.
And a deal will happen. I agree. You can't prove it's not. The history will tell. Honestly, I don't know what will happen, but I do know the court can't change the terms of the deal. They can either say he must do it or they can say he must not do it. Now, him and Twitter can preempt that by doing a side deal and then close down the court case.
Exactly.
Right, but if they do a side deal, that opens the board of directors up to negligence charges.
Yeah, but everybody in the world knows that you can't get more than $20 a share for Twitter anyway.
$20, really?
Well, I mean, isn't that what the threat is of them going to, run out the clock on this, and how that's going to be, damaging to Twitter. I mean, there are a lot of people who've tried to acquire Twitter over the years, and there've been a lot of people that have tried to acquire Twitter over the years, and the biggest problem that Twitter has is that they don't have enough customers.
Paying customers.
No, customers for the company. I mean, nobody's raising their hand and saying, except Elon Musk. And
but that's because because Twitter can't make any real money for anybody as it stands right
now. Well, I'd like some of that, not real money. If they're making quite a bit of money,
not just revenue, but profitable revenue.
Well, I mean, they're comparing them to Facebook, so if you're comparing it to Facebook, it's not real money. But if you're comparing it to name of company that is no longer in business, it's real money.
Well, yeah, I guess if you're not in business anymore, Twitter's doing
Well, you
better.
know, we tend to lose sight of the scale of these companies because they all get mentioned in the same breath. In my hometown of Kirkland, the car dealer that I bought my car from sold their land to Google. Google wants to put up a campus in Kirkland to house 7,000 employees. That's the total employee base of Twitter. So if you can think about that scale, Twitter has 1/10 the employee base of Facebook. It's a much smaller company, although in our imagination, it looms as some kind of equal of the other big social media companies. It isn't.
Oh, let's look at some other factors here. One of the things that I find interesting is as Trump's ability to be able to control social media declines, so does the imperative of trying to unseat Twitter as the dominant political force that it is in the country and the world. So isn't that good for Twitter to just basically hang on and let this subside to the point where moves in the economy become clear, whether this is a major recession or a minor one, as some people suggest? Aren't they basically holding a pretty good hand as it relates to the things that are going to be media discussions over the next 6 months?
I think the problem for Twitter is they're stuck between a fiduciary duty and common sense. Fiduciary duty dictates that they must go to the chancellery. Common sense would be to just move on, execute, grow the business, and put this behind them. And, unfortunately, company law doesn't let them do common sense. So I doubt there's any massive conviction in the Twitter management team in pursuing this case against Musk, because what if they win? I mean, how good does that look? Not really. Doesn't look very good at all, but they've done their duty and the shareholders will benefit by roughly $20 a share up from where it is today. And so I think if you were counseling them, you wouldn't be able to do much different to what they're doing because of the constraints they're working under. Now, I actually hope that Musk wins because I think him having to buy Twitter would be a disaster for Twitter now. I mean, from the point of view of supporting Twitter, I hope Musk doesn't have to buy it, because if he buys it under force when he doesn't want to for a price he doesn't want to pay, I don't know how that turns out.
Yes.
Well, I think that Professor Galloway basically makes the best case for a tremendous victory for Twitter, and I think he's the only person who really believes that. I don't think that.
What converted you? You were very skeptical of Professor Galloway last week.
I continue to be. I mean, I think he's a very smart guy, and I just think that he's wrong about a lot of things.
But on this particular issue, I'm not the totality of it.
I just, he had a snap reaction to this, and Kara Swisher's comments were, gee, I don't know, maybe this will be okay. And if I was betting, I would say maybe this will be okay. This kind of like, oh, this is going to be fun kind of media storm, I think really is benefits Twitter, and it benefits Musk as well.
What good is all of this for the user?
Well, do you use Twitter?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's your answer. You tell me.
I can't.
So I mean, I think there's only two good outcomes here. One is that Musk walks away and is allowed to. The second is that they do renegotiate a lower price and Musk happily buys it. Either one of those kind of is okay for Twitter. The one that isn't okay for Twitter is Musk's forced to pay the original price and is a bitter owner.
Meanwhile, in Musk's other signature business, I read reports that that a lot of people are following Dennis and canceling their orders because they don't want to be. They're starting to look at the Tesla car as just a high price MAGA baseball cap.
Yeah, there's a political quotient there.
That's a good
By,
one.
by the way, my car was red.
And you're going to
Oh,
throw
yeah.
the T-shirt in, right?
Did it have a license plate of MAGA too, or was it?
You know what I never understood, Dennis, is red was always the socialist color in the whole world. How come red ended up being the Republican color in America? What's the background to that?
I know that. It was one night. It was one night when NBC was doing their election coverage, and they arbitrarily gave colors to the Republican and Democratic states. And somehow, someone in their art department decided to color the Republican states red, and it stuck. Prior to that year, and I could Google it up. Prior to that year, they were different colors. They were just looking for two contrasting colors to put up the electoral count wins state by state.
Michael,
And-
you're right. It was the 2000 election. It was so close that they had red states and blue states, and they couldn't call it that night, as you recall, and it ended up being interfered with by the Supreme Court. And it was ever since then, perhaps because it was such a contentious election, that we're suffering red and blue PTSD.
I believe also that year was the year that they put the map on the ice rink and used the building of 30 Rock as a thermometer. And the colors that went up the thermometer were what indicated what the vote was that year. It was a pretty good decision, because they've done that now for the last 3 elections.
It's totally weird if you're not American to have that color designation in that order. Anyway, whatever.
Well, what I think about Musk is that
Oh, give it a rest.
I absolutely, are you? Is this a
Excuse me.
coup? Are we?
I'll be right back.
Don't forget the data.
No. What I think about what's going on with Musk is that his prescription for buying, or his interest in Twitter to begin with, was about transitioning them from an advertising-based environment to a subscription-based environment. And I think that that's a pretty smart thing that he's thinking about here. Much like what he did with SpaceX and Tesla, which is transitioning from a fossil fuel environment to a electric environment.
So you think that a
Wait,
switch to
SpaceX is electric?
Well, SpaceX, I don't know what they do anyway, but I think they're a taxi service for the stars.
I know, but they're not electric.
No?
Well, they have
No.
electricity, but no, they don't use electricity to propel the rockets. No, they do
Yeah,
not.
no, I was just trying to maintain the analogy
Ah.
without getting into the, I mean, SpaceX, how much revenue? He's not the SpaceX pioneer. He's the Tesla pioneer.
No, he's the SpaceX pioneer. Tesla was a running corporation that he.
No,
bought.
I agree. I'm just talking about, his net worth is tagged to Tesla, not to SpaceX.
Oh, true enough. True enough. Yep. Hey, but listen, we
But
just had,
did I get an answer to my question?
oh,
But
What was the
isn't
question?
Twitter already dipping their toe into subscriptions?
Yeah, I think they're getting their clock cleaned by Substack, but yes.
hard to get people to pay for stuff they're used to getting for free.
Absolutely. That was my thought, Brent. Exactly.
Well, it's not the first time in tech that transition had to be made. You forget that PC software used to be free. It used to be distributed on disks that people just shared together. And it was Bill Gates who said, no, you got to pay for this stuff. And he made a paying business out of it.
Well, that
was a longer transition, and it didn't start by going to subscription. It started by going to retail sales and theft.
That's right. That's right.
There was pirated software and software that you paid for, and gradually it's been shifting to a subscription model.
Right.
Well,
take a look at like China, were known as.
But there's still I don't know how much there is, but I'm sure there's still a lot of piracy going on. A lot of people use Adobe products that don't pay for them.
Frank, you were trying to get a word in edgewise there.
I was just going to point out the whole subscription versus advertising model is what's tearing apart the streaming business right now. But maybe not tearing it apart, but certainly creating a lot of antagonism and anxiety in the streaming business about which way to go. And especially when given the position of Netflix, and as it seems to be losing a lot of ground right now.
There is an article that recently came out from Business Insider, how Microsoft won Netflix the ad prize of the year and why Google lost it. It's as Netflix goes to the advertising dark side, I guess. It's really interesting to see, what that means just generally. It's kind of hard to be just a content-driven, subscription-based network when people have so many options and they don't have to pay $15 a year for one service when they can pay $15 a year and get like 8 services almost and not have to depend on one. And so now Netflix is having to say, well, I guess we're going to have to start doing ads. And usually when you start doing ads, you go to Google or Facebook, well, not this one, but they're going to Microsoft. So what is that? What does all this mean?
What does this mean? It means that market competition is still alive. We've for years been talking about when will there be a ceiling for how much people are willing to pay for subscription entertainment?
Yeah, the answer is yes.
And we've known there would be. Inflation just helped bring that ceiling a little bit lower. So
it's the quality
a lot lower.
It's the quality of the content and the special, I think, unique nature of the Netflix content. Tina and I were discussing this a couple of days ago. There's these shows that she doesn't really want to watch that I do, like Borgen, for example, because I think it's a very astute political. It's like the successor to The West Wing, basically.
It's very good, yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of content, if people are given the choice between spending $15 a month for it or having some ads interspersed with it for $12 a month, they're going to go with the $12 a month. So, advertising is going to have a percentage of this. The question is whether the uniqueness of the content is going to survive this transition.
I think also it has something also to do with whatever the secret sauce is of how much advertising, where it's placed, how long is it, and what's the price ratio between I'll buy this service if my ads are only one ad for 30 seconds every 12 minutes or every 15 minutes, something like that. I'm just saying nobody's figured that out yet. I think Paramount Plus is very close to having a pretty good system for that. But I think that's kind of what's going on.
What are they doing? Why do you say that?
Well, you get, and when you watch Paramount Plus and an ad comes up, it's likely that the longest ad block I've ever seen on Paramount Plus, I could be wrong, is about a minute and a half, but they tend to be about 30 seconds. And you actually can see a clock in the upper left-hand corner that clicks down and tells you how much time is left on that ad. And it's really interesting because I often, on traditional television, know that an ad comes up, gives me an opportunity to get up and go somewhere and do something. With Paramount, I found myself, whatever it is you do, I found myself saying, there's an ad, getting up, and before I've gotten up, the ad is over. And I kind of like that. I think that's interesting. And I think that's one of the formulas that has to be figured out. I would and do pay a lot less for Paramount Plus, obviously, than I do for Netflix, which has no ads. Paramount Plus is not paying the amount of money for production that Netflix is yet, but Paramount Plus, which is CBS, which is a pretty big company and has its own studio too, it can figure out a way to get a lot of production done with their sort of hybrid pay-as-you-go / advertising model.
So I inspired by you, Frank, I recently bought an ATSC3 tuner.
Yeah.
It's called Tableau. It's like $200. And I plugged it into my antenna that's on the house. And for the first time, I've got like 65 channels of broadcast over the air TV, none of which, by the way, have yet upgraded to ATSC3, it turns out. So even though it's a standard, none of the Bay Area stations are broadcasting using it yet.
They will, though.
Anyways, so recently I've been watching, just to see how good it is, I watched the broadcast feed. Oh my God. I mean, the ads are just endless.
Yeah.
You just can't watch a show because there's more ads than show on broadcast. So your insight about Paramount definitely helps. I watched, Steve inspired this one, but I watched the Bosch with ads on Freevee, the Amazon Prime ad-supported thing. And I've now installed the Freevee app on my Apple TV, and it's much more tolerable, way more tolerable.
Yeah, it's not bad.
That said, I was thinking, if you go back to before streaming and you ask the question, we should probably do a poll on this. What's the highest monthly cable or satellite bill you ever paid? In my case, it's over $200 a month.
Yeah, me too.
Comcast. And if I add together all my subscriptions, it's nowhere near that. So I actually think that, the price people used to pay for entertainment is more than they're paying now, even with all the subs.
And arguably entertainment is better.
Way better.
But I want to place some blame at Tina Gillmor, because I think the short videos, the video snippets, the sneak peeks, you notice whenever you have, like, you go on a website and they have, clips broken down. So you want to see, just a little 1 minute clip. They play like 30 seconds or a minute of actual ads before they play the 1 minute, at least on the, back on traditional TV. When you watch the TV show, it was like 40 minutes of actual show and 20 minutes of advertising. Now, just to watch a 1 minute clip, you got to watch a 1 minute ad. The ratio of content to ad is atrocious now.
In short form, yeah. In short form. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's just so annoying. You can't watch just one little clip without having a 30-second ad in front of it. Oh, it's just ridiculous.
And then after that 30-second ad, another ad pops up that you can actually skip, but you have to get through the first 30-second ad before you get to the ad that you can skip.
Well, YouTube they've weaponized advertising to drive subscriptions. So basically the whole intent is to piss you off. And they throw up these things that say you can get rid of this if you subscribe.
What is the value of pissing off the audience?
Well, to make them pay for subscriptions so that they can afford that. But look, wait a second. TikTok has managed an interesting way around that, and that is to give you all of the content you want and then put a full-blown ad in as though it was content, which you can just swipe away.
Yeah, but you know what's happened? Because I went to the YouTube premium model because I just can't stand watching a video and just in the middle of the video, where no,
See, it worked.
no
It
rhyme
worked
or
on
reason,
Brent.
a freaking
Yeah.
ad comes out of nowhere and has no relevance to me whatsoever.
And
So
by
I-
the way, it doesn't stop at a point where it might be normal to stop. It just stops.
Yeah, it's just so frustrating. So I pay the $11.99 a month for the premium, and I like not having ads. But guess what's happened? Because now all these content creators they realize they can make some more. They can actually do their own ads within their video. Now you got to watch them do their own ads. So it has nothing to do with
that. Historically, that's been going on a long time.
That's
Product
why I don't
placement.
watch. That's why I'm not on TikTok. I don't really want this.
But
It's not that on TikTok though. It's different.
actually, it is. One of my channels that I watch on TikTok. I recently caught him doing some sponsored content, promotional
Cats
content.
on TikTok, they don't do any on cats on TikTok. Dennis, you should check it out. Cats on
But
TikTok.
the model for the short form,
On.
the ratio, if you just want to watch one short form clip, is pretty bad. But their model is to try and hook you to watch an endless series of clips,
Like me, I do
whether
that.
it's TikTok or Reels on Instagram or YouTube Shorts. They all want to keep you going from the next to the next to the next. And it isn't a one-to-one ad ratio once they get you hooked.
Are you kidding me? It's
you-
at least on some of these, like on ESPN, let's say you watch the first clip and first you get the ad and then you watch the clip. And then the next thing is, so they do a tease for the watch in 5 seconds for this new clip. So you're like, okay, I'll watch this clip, hoping that'll just go right into the clip. No, it goes into a whole other commercial. So you can't even get away with, okay, I'll watch this one. I'll watch the first commercial. Hopefully this next clip will just go right into the clip because I already watched the first commercial for 30 seconds. It doesn't do that. It always feeds you a new ad if you're going to watch another clip. And that is just infuriating because you give me a freaking break. All right, go back to the old man. Why am I ranting like this?
I'm not
you're
sure.
absolutely right.
Sounds like
Brent,
they
you're
really
right.
got you.
I just think there's only one word, Brent. There's only one word for it: scumbags.
It really feels it's so manipulative. You can't get away from it. It's just so annoying.
But I was watching on my YouTube TV this morning or Friday morning. I was watching Good Morning America and the Today Show. And honestly, I think they've tripled the amount of ads on those programs, on the morning shows. And aside from the fact that the morning shows, which used to be important news coverage, are now mostly advertising stuff that their parent companies have, they are loading up with advertisements. It's impossible to watch those shows now.
So
And
Frank, what does that say to you? Is it saying that they have to do more advertising and that, or do they just not care about the consumer experience at this point? What's driving the overload of advertisement?
So
I agree with you,
there's a
Brian.
whole bunch of people at these networks who are there in order to make sure that the consumer experience is as good as it can be. But there are more important and powerful people in those networks who are the ones that sell the advertising, that can actually tell the people who are trying to make the consumer experience better that they're not going to get their way. And that's where we are in a lot of network television right now. There is an overload of advertising. The advertising has increased because they want to spend more money to create better product in order to compete with the streamers who have better shows. I don't know where, because I'm not actually living inside the network cocoon anymore. I'm not sure exactly where that is inside the network cocoon, and I'm not watching enough primetime network stuff.
What's a show on a network channel or whatever they're called these days that you can give me an example of why they're competing successfully with streaming content. I mean, this is all.
I can't because I don't watch primetime network television at all.
What is the success? What is the measure of success?
Well, eyeballs is still a prime measure of success. I don't know.
Oh,
'cause I'm not
angry
paying
eyeballs.
attention.
Angry eyeballs is what they're looking for.
It's eyeballs and demographics. It's which
Yeah.
eyeballs you're getting.
Yeah, are you getting the 18 to 49 viewer, which is still, interestingly enough, the prime demo in prime time? I've always argued that is too low in terms of the people who spend money. It just seems to me like it needs to be more like 25 to 54, which is the next demo up. But it's 18 to 49, and it's total viewers and 18 to 49. Those two demographics are the ones that they count.
Now, the reason that the young demographic remains popular, despite that they may have less money to spend, is the notion, A, that you're getting them as lifetime customers for a long time, and B, they're less set in their ways, and you're more likely to convert them.
Yeah, I think that the first part of that formula is a non-starter today. The second part may be worth still considering, but I think that the younger demographic is take a look at the 18 to 49 numbers. I have seen a number of those studies. They're down from where they were, but all television viewing on the network scale is down from where it was 5 years ago, 7 years ago. It's moved over to the premium streamers.
Right.
Now, you still have, I think, on premium cable, some good work being done. That's when you look at Better Call Saul or some of the FX programs, they're also available on streaming. But as premium cable, they've done quite well.
Yeah, but I think there's fewer of those success stories that people are talking about than the ones that people are talking about on the streamers. At least that's anecdotal to me anyway.
I mean, Yellowstone's another example of
which, by the way, was snubbed at the Emmys, and I was really angry about that. That was just horrible.
What's the Emmys?
Just kidding. It's one of the EGOTs.
It's the first.
Yeah, it's the first of the EGOTs.
And
Yellow.
By the way, in EGOT, if I say that my Italian,
I don't even know what EGOT means.
EGOT.
Emmy, Grammy, Oscar.
Like the Kentucky Derby.
Thank you.
Something like that. Hey, can I throw something out to Keith?
Yes.
What is the current situation with crypto? What is it doing to the long-term prospects of this becoming something that hits mainstream? It seems like there's, it's everything's down, but everybody is really trashed what's going on with crypto.
Yeah. Well, look, I think you have to distinguish between the narrative around Web3 and the narrative around crypto, and I don't think they're the same thing. If you look at the signals in investing patterns, more and more money is being attracted to Web3, even now. So if you look at just the amount of investments made by smart VCs in Web3 projects, which may or may not involve tokens. But then if you look at the more speculative crypto, give me $1, I'll give you back 10 kind of narrative, that's been massively found out. And all these bankruptcies and everything are mainly in companies that were leveraging in a growing market, and as soon as the market stopped growing, the leveraging hit them in the face, and they've gone bankrupt. Their asset base wasn't big enough in a down market to support their business. So I mean, I've never actually invested in any of those things. I did for a brief moment, in the spirit of experimentation, try to get 20% interest on some Ethereum via Celsius but I stopped doing it after a couple of months when I understood it. So, it feels to me as if, the highly centralized early 21st century big tech stack is being definitely challenged by a mid 21st century decentralized tech stack. And that isn't going to stop.
Will crypto rebound?
Well, I think Bitcoin and Ethereum will. And anyone that has a proper blockchain that's a real software stack that people can build on top of and rely on it probably will be fine. But the application layer where people have tried to make a quick buck, that has been found out, just like ICOs were found out in 2017 and 18. ICOs were found out, the whole market crashed in 2018 and 19 and came back in 2020, fresh and clean and squeaky clean. And then this new abomination happened. And I think there's always going to be abominations built on top of good things.
What about SPACs?
Different topic altogether. SPACs were a valid attempt to try to get companies that required a lot of capital prior to making a profit to be able to use public markets to raise money. And, for things like Virgin's space thing, Virgin Galactic and others, Open Door is probably a good example. There were some good examples of where that was a good use case. Then all the speculators jumped in saying, holy shit, we can raise money for a SPAC, buy any old piece of crap, take it public and run for the hills, after the lockups expire. That's gone. All of that's gone.
Yeah, but you say that it's an entirely different story, yet it smells the same to me.
Well, the only thing in common is whenever there's money to be made, bad people run towards it.
Yeah, but the problem that I see on the horizon for Web3 is that it's kind of like this mirage that is just over the hill. Okay, it's over the next hill. Oh, what? It's okay. So it's like AR, VR.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the horizon that you can see, but you can never reach.
You reach out and it disappears.
Yeah.
And the rationale for the difference between centralization and decentralization, I think it's got more to do with the investment community wanting to have some action in the defanging of the incumbents than it is for any kind of service or value proposition that is actually going to work.
Yeah, you're right in that most of the discussion that's interesting today is fairly philosophical, not practical, in other words. So if this week I read this thing called The Network State by this guy Balaji Srinivasan that was pointed to by Bill Gurley from Benchmark Capital. And Vitalik Buterin, the founder of Ethereum, wrote a reply to it. And it's basically in the spirit of individual freedom. They imagine a world in which you can join a software network and it can feel like you've created a nation state, but not a nation state, like an overlay on the world, for example, for people who never want to eat animals, for example. And they imagine the network supporting communities separate from branded portals. And that is an interesting philosophical construct. And they've written some software, by the way, that is the early start of being able to actually do it. So then the question is, do we human beings want that amount of, it's a combination of independence on the one hand to do whatever it is you want to do. So that's the libertarian part of it. But it's also, a disregard for people that you disagree with, like you're cutting yourself off and putting yourself into this network state that's just for you and people like you. So is that good? You know, is it the breakdown of human society into little bubbles, or is it the enabling of specific interest? I find it fascinating conceptually, because it's going back to things like Smith and Rousseau and Mill about what, Plato, what kind of world do we want? Now, the interesting thing is technology enables a lot more possible answers to that question than used to be true.
So what doesn't something like NFTs fit into that whole the rabbit hole that we're going down here, Keith?
I think NFTs are a hybrid between the people who just want to make money and how do you transfer assets between people in the digital realm, which is the good part of it. And I think it's all confused right now. I think the people who just want to make money dominate the narrative, but actually there's something valid there.
I think you've just put your finger on a recurring problem with all of these schemes. Whatever virtue you describe, you're also going to attract scoundrels. And you're also going to attract, short-termers who are looking for a quick buck. And it tends to undermine the project of the people who are promoting some new arrangement for reasons of virtue.
And the perception, therefore, becomes negative.
It does. And,
especially if they're not engaged. If you're looking at it from the outside, it's like with anything. If you only watch the main news of the day, it's almost always bad news, right? Well, that doesn't mean the world's bad. It's just that as an outsider, you get fed the bad stuff because it's more newsworthy.
I think that you can be engaged without engaging.
Yeah.
Like you could be.
Explain that, Frank.
Well, I think that you can be intelligent enough to be able to look at something without actually investing in it, for example, and understand sort of the positioning of it, where it could be going inside the bubble of technology and finance. And that's the SPAC thing, and that's the NFT thing, and that's the crypto thing. They all seem to be in a very similar bubble to me.
Well, the world is entrepreneurial in many dimensions, not simply in terms of business and investing, but things like churches, things like knitting societies, things like armed right-wing militias. You have someone who has an idea and promotes it and attracts followers. He tells a story. He says, here's an idea. Here's how it's going to benefit you. Come on and join me. And you have other people who say, yes, I'll sign up. I'll put some money in there. I'll come and work for you. I'll join your endeavor, whatever it is. And that happens in every realm, from politics to business to fascism.
So one of the things I wasn't going to talk about, I'm going to talk about, which I found interesting. And that was when there was, someone has to correct me if I'm wrong about this, but Trump was a member, and his son were board members, or highly placed board members, in the Trump digital group, which once it was being investigated, we discovered that they had dropped away from that board weeks before the public announcement of the investigation. I see that as he's a pretty extreme example of it, but that's an example of sort of the Ponzi scheming thing that I see happening in a lot of these new technologies.
Yeah, but you see both sides, don't you? I mean, if I said to you, okay, Frank, tell me some of the good things that are happening, I think you'd struggle more than the bad things, but you could find some.
Yes. Yeah. Well, one of the good things that I could find is if I had dumped out of my crypto about 5 weeks ago, I would be saying, see, I could make some money in this, but I didn't dump out of it. I'm still ahead, but I'm nowhere near ahead as I was 6 weeks ago.
But that's also true of the stock market. I haven't sold
Okay.
any. I haven't sold any shares.
No, you can't though right now. Yeah, nobody
Well,
can.
I could have, you know, if I wanted to. I mean, the news about the economy's been pretty much there, hasn't it, since late last year? So you could have said, okay, I'm going to go all into cash. Some people that we know did do that. They went into cash, like the guy Chamath Palihapitiya did. And, you know, he preserved his capital. I didn't. And if I look at my stock portfolio, it's down, you know, probably 30%. And it was up before. So,
Yeah.
you know, so if I sold now, I'd be claiming a tax loss this year, but I haven't sold anything. And, you know, 2 years from now, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
So there's the light at the end of the tunnel and the good story attached to the bad.
Yeah.
But it is also true that in any of these realms, some people who tell stories and attract followers, employees, members, and investors actually create some good things.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like all of them are scheming rapscallions. Some of them have good ideas and create value that's lasting.
I think you're going to see, by the way, to go back to something we were talking about earlier, that this Netflix Microsoft deal is going to prove to be very good.
For who?
Both of them.
Well, do you think Netflix is having a hard time?
I think Netflix is having a hard time trying to decide what it wants to be. That's why they're talking to Microsoft. I think.
You know, I mean, Netflix is facing more resistance than they had when they founded and built what they have, because the product they come up with was so good that they other people have jumped in. So you've got Apple playing this game, you've got all of the TV networks playing this game, and Netflix can't stand still. Because to stand still in a competitive environment is to go backwards.
And that's why I think this is going to prove to be a good thing for Netflix and for Microsoft. I think it'll create a new bucket.
I think there's a more important variable in play. I think of what Netflix and Microsoft is doing as reactive to economic realities of the competitive marketplace now. But what's really happened is the quality of content and the number of sources it comes from are the best ever. And so the likelihood you'll be loyal to a single subscription is reduced massively. And therefore, people are going to spread their money. Some people will play the month-by-month game that, where you subscribe whilst there's something you want to watch and then unsubscribe.
I do.
Other people will just, because they can afford to, will just ignore it and just, blah, blah, or because they don't care about money as much for some reason, which is what I'm more like. I mean, if anyone looked at my subscriptions, it's highly irrational. I should be doing what.
But there's certainly, and you can't argue, there are more people at the level of worrying about where their money is going than there are people who are not worried about where their money is going, first of all. And second of all, I actually think that Microsoft, yes, they react, but I think it looks like they reacted, but I think they've been thinking about this for a long time and finally took the leap and decided to go in a different direction by making the deal with Microsoft rather than going with one of the regular players.
The bigger news to me this week, Frank, is the leak that Apple has won this NFL Sunday Ticket streaming rights, and secondly that they're going after the UEFA Champions League rights. So what Apple is saying is subscription is the way to go, and we're going to make it worth your while because we're going to bring things into our tent that you want.
So they're learning from Amazon because they've been doing that for a while. And that's the thing that Netflix is still missing: live sports, appointment viewing. There's only a couple of things that make people actually want to watch something when it's actually going on.
Well,
And
but that's why YouTube TV actually works,
Yeah.
because you get all the live sports that all the networks carry.
Yeah, I think YouTube TV is one of the most successful things Google has ever done.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it allows you. I mean, basically, it's a recorder in the sky.
Yeah.
So basically, this issue of advertising is leveled across all these networks. They all become a subsidiary of the YouTube TV methodology. It's the closest thing to a TV guide that exists right now.
I just wish that they would have better music on those places where they put up a slide during a commercial that they don't want their viewers to, because that music that they play is boring and old. They're starting to do here on BBC HD.
Yeah.
If you watch BBC HD on the iPlayer, which I actually watch it on through my Fire Stick, or sometimes on my smart TV, but I just watch
It
everything.
sounds vaguely pornographic, what you're saying.
No, it's the sound that you don't get on BBC HD. You don't get the local TV, the local London news. You can't get it. So they put up a slide and it says you can't get it. And what you hear is white noise. So you'll often hear the sounds of bird. It's like CBS Sunday Morning. You'll hear the sound of the waves on the beach, or the sounds of birds, or the sounds of the wind going through the. It's much better than that crappy music YouTube TV does. And that's it. I'm done.
All right. So Dennis, you haven't said a word, and I know exactly why, but because all your favorite topics are just streaming past you. But any
I'm
comments?
taking notes. It's vicious. I can't keep up. I'm learning so much as we go along here.
Okay, but give us a little sample of what's going on in your head right now.
What's going on in my head, and I think, well, I won't say that. What's going on in my head is the economy, the global economy, and the continuing effects of the pandemic. A lot of the world isn't even close to getting vaccinated, and it strikes me that if you want to right the global economy, you need to first cure the world, or vaccinate it at least, and it strikes me that ought to be the number one issue on the plate of every world leader right now. How do we get more vaccines from where they are and where they're produced to where they're needed? This false argument, it is a false argument to say, well, we can't let you make vaccines in your hometown because we've got these proprietary interests. All that's fine. And as a matter of fact, if you're going to produce vaccine quickly, you're not going to do it by building a factory in East Oshkosh. You're going to do it by making vaccines 24 hours a day in existing facilities. So why isn't there a global program to eradicate this virus? It's not China's solution of keeping everybody locked up. But if you take the vaccine making capabilities that are found in pretty much the United States and the EU, after all this time, we ought to be churning out vaccine. We ought to be making sure that the Chinese get the vaccines they need so that the supply chains can unravel or unsnarl, so that we can get back to normal business.
Do you actually see a politician that's going to be motivated to do something about this?
I don't know. Everyone should be. I don't understand why these guys keep pursuing their own parochial interests.
Well, for one reason, in the United States, there's an anti-vaccine political entity,
That's great.
political faction.
Leave it alone. Don't touch it.
Yeah,
Take their vaccines and give them to the Chinese. Give them to the
no, but
Africans.
that same faction also opposes the U.S. exporting vaccines, the U.S. giving away vaccines, or even selling vaccines. We've got such a screwed up system within U.S. politics that it's
So
very hard to get the
so
rational.
Michael, your answer is no, there's no way that anybody is actually going to support this.
I didn't say anybody.
Well,
There's no
who?
way. There is no way. Excuse me.
Who?
Excuse me. There is no way that a majority of the United States Congress is going to support this.
Oh, sure there is, because every business leader in the world wants this to happen, or something like this to happen, to unsnarl the supply chains. Every business leader has their Congress people, their legislators. This could happen.
But every business person and every politician has a prioritized list of things that they're looking for, and this always falls down that list compared to more short-term things.
You're just saying it won't happen because it hasn't happened, or it won't happen because it can't happen. It's a tautology. What's needed is, what I'm saying is, it needs leadership. It needs a political leader who calls bullpucky on the status quo and gets this done.
So if you were estimating, Dennis, where is this more likely to come from, the Republican Party or the Democratic Party?
I don't see it coming from.
It's a trick question.
Party. Right. I don't see it coming from the Republican Party.
Do you seriously think it's going to come from the Democratic Party? In any kind of effective way?
Think that's not my point. My point is it needs to.
Did any of you look at the New York Times Siena College research poll that came out last week?
Yeah.
One of the questions is, what is the most important issue facing the world? And the highest ones were economy and inflation. Nobody, 0%, said that coronavirus is the most important issue. And nobody's been able, and just let me finish. Let me finish. Nobody in leadership has been able to make the linkage that you just made that points out that coronavirus is embedded in inflation and the economy, that you can't solve one without solving the other. When you have issues that are intricately linked, it is very hard to pitch them to the general public because people don't see interconnections.
Well, it's also difficult to pitch them to the Congress.
Politicians are afraid of their own voters. That's the problem.
Well, except if you're Manchin and know exactly where your butter is, where your bread is being buttered.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that Manchin's on a good track right now. I think I think everybody's sick of him at this point.
Well, everybody is sick of him, but the voters of West Virginia.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw on ABC today there were some sample voters from West Virginia, and it was about 50-50. So that means that about 50% of the voters were sick of him.
Or the media wants.
Well, the thing you have to keep in mind is that Manchin just got reelected to a 6-year term, and every senator counts on amnesia by year 6. So he's
what is Biden going to do? Is he going to kick him out of the party? Because now all of a sudden the Democrats are a minority party. You think that's going to happen?
Not in the short term. Biden is stuck. Manchin holds the cards. I have to point out, though, he has been very good in terms of most issues, certainly on appointments, judicial appointments, cabinet appointments. He's a very reliable part of the Democratic coalition, but on economic issues, he's not. So
environmental too.
Biden is stuck because he's got Potomac fever. He wants to stay in the White House. If Biden had a little bit of Teddy Roosevelt in him, Biden would be fueling up Air Force One every week and going somewhere and making a speech calling bullpucky on the status quo.
Oh, I agree with that. I'm so disappointed that hasn't happened. I kind of thought it would happen. I thought once they passed the bipartisan infrastructure bill, there was so much to talk about. There was such a ready program to tour the country and make a speech opening up some new project and then going in and selling your agenda and attacking your opponents. Now, there's a lot else that Biden has to take care of in terms of foreign policy. I understand there are limits to how often he can fly, but I would have expected him to be doing a lot more flying and a lot more of what you just talked about.
Yeah, we talked about that.
I agree. I think Air Force One is made to be the White House with wings. And I think Biden, this goes back to other aspects of the news this week, Biden is too old to do the job.
I think that's ludicrous. I really do. I think that the Democratic Party is trying to bring this issue to the surface so that they can debunk it.
Feels to me as if
everybody's too old. Everybody's too old to be doing what they're doing.
The issue of Biden's age is at this point, I think, a red herring. It may be an important issue in the middle of next year when we have to look at who the next president is going to be. But if that becomes the issue for this year, it's a distraction from the only thing that's important, which is the 2022 midterm elections. And whether or not Biden runs in 24 is not the issue right now.
All right. So I totally agree with you. I agree with everybody here. I think we're screwed. So the last question I have is, how does everybody think that the January 6th committee is doing?
Oh,
in my case, better than I anticipated, and having a material impact on perceptions leading up to November. I don't really care about the question of whether Trump gets prosecuted, to be honest, because I think that's a sideshow. I think the main thing is, does it impact the outcome of the elections? And I think the answer is yes. Will it do it enough?
The 1/6 committee is basically doing a version of what I just described of having Biden get on Air Force One and go talk to the people. That's what this committee's doing, and it's working.
Yeah,
it is, but on one narrow issue. But
you mean the survival of democracy in the free world?
Yeah,
that's a minor issue.
Well, but if you look at how people rank issues, that comes in 4, 5, or 6.
I know, but Jay Leno used to go and read people segments of the Bill of Rights and ask them whether they agreed with it. Most people don't.
I had very high expectations for the January 6th committee, and they have surpassed them. I'm just incredibly impressed with what they're doing.
So, do you think they're going to have a problem running out of sessions? I mean, I think after this next session, they should basically, drop the mic. But I don't think they will.
No, I don't think they will. I think they will have.
Let Derek Garland take over from here.
So here's what's going to happen. They're going to finish big this week. They're continuing to get information and continuing to have people come forward. If something huge comes up, they're going to have a session, and probably at the time they release their written report, they're going to have a session. But this will be a mic drop with an asterisk. They're going to pick up the mic again if they find a reason to.
I think
you're right.
I think they've probably rendered Trump unelectable, which I would not have thought they could pull off. But I think he might well now be unelectable, which means the Republicans are going to be forced to look elsewhere unless they really are stupid.
So there's a fascinating discussion in it's this guy Andrew Sullivan, who is not my favorite political thinker, but on Trump, he's been dead on the mark. And he has a long discussion in his newsletter, which is available for free, by the way. this particular article about what's the guy from Florida's name?
Matt Gates.
DeSantis.
Yeah, and it's a real eye opener. It's not the kind of thing that I think most of us who lean toward the progressive side are going to be happy with, but it's a very interesting discussion about the pluses and minuses of that particular politician.
What, that he's really worse than Trump?
No, that he's potentially more effective than Trump.
Oh, he's definitely more effective. He's smarter and better educated, and
right. But that's going in. But
on the other hand,
he's crazy.
Trump had an appeal beyond people who were engaged with issues. Trump had a persona that he built over decades as being a successful, rich businessman. It was false, but it was effective and it was out there. And Trump had an ability to attract people who weren't really interested in politics or issues based on his personality. I don't know if DeSantis can match that.
Well, I think that the general flow of this is, this is kind of like Never Trumpers 2.0. And the logic of it is that if the important thing to do is to get Trump out of the conventions. In other words, you got to stop him before 24. And that DeSantis is the most likely person to be able to pull that off. That's kind of the vibe that's going on here. And my concern is that you remember all the Never Trumpers and what they had to say about, there's still David Jolly is still on MSNBC every day saying that he doesn't know what he's talking about. I mean, at the end of the day, DeSantis, to your point, Michael, may be the false hope of an electorate that doesn't know what they're doing.
Well, the real problem is in the broad brushstrokes. It's like, be careful what you wish for. Yeah. I would characterize politics as having reached exhaustion point. By what I mean by that is, I don't think either on the Democratic side or the Republican side there's any true believers in a good future fighting to make it happen. Almost all of them are just going through the motions of the political day-to-day, battle-focused, not war-focused kind of outcome. And if you want to understand why Biden isn't doing this stuff, he's just a symptom of the broader demise of people believing in politics as a process that can bring.
Yeah, I don't buy that. I mean, if the Supreme Court decisions around Roe v. Wade and so many of these, the gun debate, these things are real and they're going to drive people to the polls. So the question isn't whether or not there's art craft or stagecraft in the political ranks. It's who's going to do what and when's it going to happen.
No, but you're echoing my point, because I'm saying everything's reactive in the moment. Where are the big thinkers who believe in something?
Well, I'm not making that point because I disagree with it.
Well, who is the big thinker that believes in something? Who could I feel?
I don't
really
know.
good?
I'm not talking about big thinkers. I'm talking about what you were talking about previously, which is, the magnetic, or maybe it was Michael, the magnetic personality triumphing over the logic of the moment. Those are the people that we should be afraid of, but we should also be aware of their power.
Yeah. Well, that we all agree on. I mean, Trump is not the worst thing that's going to happen to the USA. There's worse to come, trust me. But he's the opening act, and DeSantis would be a pretty, a step in a bad direction compared to Trump.
Just go read the newsletter. Let me pitch it one more time. I didn't like what I was reading, but there's a certain amount of information about how DeSantis is handling some of the issues that the left media says, look out for this guy because he's smart. Okay. Yeah. Look out for this guy because he's actually, well, read the article.
Yeah, yeah.
You'll be surprised.
Yeah. Dennis, think about what DeSantis did in Florida by ignoring the whole issue of coronavirus.
Is it in t.me/Gillmor gang, Steve?
I was waiting for that.
I wouldn't know. I can't get in there because of all the paywall stuff from The Economist and
Business Insider.
Business
Insider, Repro.
Yeah, please. I spend at least an hour a day going in and replying to those posts saying paywall. It's my service to the readers.
I stopped, by the way.
Keith, I like a lot of what you say, but I think it's important to look not at Trump or DeSantis as sort of the beginning, but to look at W as the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And what you get with Trump is sort of the apotheosis. I don't know if anybody can top Trump. I don't know if anybody can come in and do a worse job.
Wait a minute. Reagan may have been a beginning.
Yeah, but I think I agree with you. I agree with you, Dennis. I mean, the Republicans have been doing a lot of this for a long time, but Trump really broke the mold.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, let's understand that most of this stuff is not from Trump. Most of this stuff has been in process for decades. Trump happened to be the guy who was able to electrify enough voters to give the people who exploited. I mean, Trump is a figurehead. Trump helped get McConnell's agenda through. Trump got the Federalist Society agenda through. These aren't Trump's agenda. Trump merely wanted to get into the White House, and
Trump was a vessel.
He is a vessel and a figurehead. So the forces that exploited Trump are still out there, ready to exploit the next leader that shows any promise of winning an electoral majority.
Well, I think if you want to really pinpoint it, it wasn't Reagan. It wasn't W. It was Newt Gingrich.
I agree.
On America, and I think because you've got people like Louis Gohmert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and several other people who are effectively legislators. That is an important tell that this gig is up. It's not going to be up immediately. Somebody like Ron DeSantis might win an election, but I think.
Well, I'd like him to win the primary.
Oh, that'd be sweet.
Yeah,
maybe even get the nomination.
I just don't think he will.
And then, it'll be interesting to see. It would strike fear, I think, into the hearts of every Democrat, is if somebody like Larry Hogan or Charlie Baker got the Republican nod in 24, because those guys are the closest thing the Republicans have to smart guys with ideas.
Larry Hogan, absolutely.
But to me, all of this reinforces we've got to the state where the real purpose of politics, which is to take the people's concept of progress and make it happen. That's the real purpose of politics. It's like our guys that we put up there, guys meaning men and women, to do what we think progress represents, and then they do it and we all feel good about it. That's what politics is meant to be. And it's deteriorated so much from that we can't even recognize good anymore because so we put up with what we get. And I think that's true on both sides.
I think you're missing a point. The point is that is not the point of politics. That is the point of democratic politics. We've got a side that's focused on monarchy or autocracy, and the purpose of autocracy is completely different. It's making the leader happy.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about politics with a small with a small p.
When you describe politics, you're describing the virtuous ideology of cryptocurrency. That's the virtuous description of politics. It's not the realistic
crypto is the end of politics.
Dennis is gone. Wait a minute. Hold on.
Crypto is the end of politics, but I'm talking about.
I had to do that once.
I'm just talking about what, and I realize that this is a bit repetitive, but Smith, Rousseau, and Mill, and people like in that era.
Sounds like a shortstop and triple play.
Secret to ever the chances.
Yeah, they believed in politics as a vehicle for human progress.
Yeah, and
democracy was the chosen form, and all I'm saying is you can't blame people for concluding it isn't working when what you end up with is failure to execute.
Well, there is a more cynical view that says the world is always run by the rich, either the landowners or now the shareholders. And democracy is a very cynical ploy to pacify the people and give the people the illusion that they are in charge.
That's Max Weber. Max Weber talks about that politics and the church and trade unions all serving that purpose. But he's wrong. He's wrong. Human beings can control their own destiny if they want to. We've all been numbed into not caring because these people are clowns and we don't believe in them anymore.
Well, yes, and to oppose Weber, I would say that each one of us is capable of moving the world and has a stake in the world. We are not the dumb proletariat. We all have access to some of the levers of power, and it's never been more true than it is today. That so much political power has been pushed down to pretty much average people. I mean, if you've got a post office box, you count.
Okay, I want to forgo the once around the table, since that's been the whole show. And I want to thank our producer and director, Tina Chase Gillmor.
Okay, hang on.
Let me do this.
Hi, I wanted to say one thing, closing, even though you're not asking us to go around the table, Steve. I'm going to tell you that one of our audience members, Dave Leninger, probably really screwing up his name, said the group provides the best insight into topics under discussion by far. Thanks for the intelligent conversation without the fanboy flavor of too many other groups. So
thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
I don't know how to handle
nice
that.
Review. And thanks for sharing that, Dave. It's always nice for us to hear something like that.
It's great to hear it. Thank you,
Yeah.
Tim. Thanks to Michael Markman.
He waved.
Yeah. Why do you say that?
You didn't want to go once around the table, so I just kind of trying to get out as quickly and quietly as possible.
Well, less quiet, a little bit more, please.
All right. Thank you all. I think this discussion was well worth my time. I hope it was worth the viewers' time.
Thank you to Brent Leary, sir.
You're welcome.
AI at its peak.
Was
All right.
that an echo or was
Low
that
bar.
what was that called?
It's
That was a
pre-recorded.
megaphone. It was a megaphone.
Yeah.
Megaphone. Okay.
Did you say that live or is it
No, it's
on
live.
tape?
It was live. Watch his lips.
I'm trying to.
It's got live voice distortion.
I'll do large robot.
This is what large robot sounds like.
Ooh, I like large robot.
Okay.
That's my favorite.
Thanks to
That's
Frank
like
Raddick.
Frank.
Thank
Large
you.
robots.
This was a great conversation today, guys. I like it when it feels like a news magazine.
Mm,
Every page was something
Like
different,
60 minutes?
which I liked.
nice.
It'd be 90 minutes.
Large robot is the Will Robinson robot from.
Danger, danger. Nah, I don't
Thank
think.
you.
I like that. That was the good part. Thanks to Dennis Pombriant.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed the Elon Musk part of the conversation.
I live to serve. And thanks to everybody who showed up, and especially those who didn't. Huh? I didn't?
Did you get everyone?
Oh, what about Frank? What about Keith?
Didn't get Frank.
I said Frank. I said Frank.
I was got.
He was talked over. And who else?
Me.
Oh, Keith.
Don't leave Keith out.
No,
It's fine.
no, it's not.
Oh, look.
You know, ever since I was a little boy, things like this didn't happen to me.
Oh, we're going to call you Rodney from now on.
I just thought you'd said so much that you
Oh.
didn't need to have any, you had nothing left in the tank.
No.
But thank you, Keith Tier.
Thank you, Steve Gillmor.
Keith, the next time we pick kickball teams, I'm picking you first, just so you don't feel left out. Okay.
Very good. Very
Okay.
good.
Yeah, but dodgeball is a really bad game.
Yeah, they're all really bad.
Kickball is, has some sport
Yeah.
to it.
Golf. I'll pick you.
Go. Okay.
All right. Thanks to everybody who did show up out there in Cyberland. We really
Yeah.
appreciated
Thanks
those
to our
comments
viewers.
and especially the comments of those who said nothing.
Oh, not especially, but
No,
those who
this
say
is how I
nothing
feel.
are good too.
Well, but
Yeah.
saying nothing sometimes is way better than saying something.
We like
I
them
agree.
being here, and we're glad that they can be part of our experience.
We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.